Hello and welcome to another Overlord lore video, and today we are going to ask a very simple question with quite the complex answer. Will the slain theocracy, after the events that transpired in the 15th and 16th volume of Overlord, survive the oncoming onslaught of Nezaric's forces? Is there any hope for it to exist after it suffered the wrath of the Overlord? Or is it doomed and will share the fate of the Kingdom of Ainz? But before we are going to talk about all of this, let me briefly say thanks to my Patreons for supporting this channel, as well as all users of the YouTube thanks function for making one-time donations. Now, with all of that said, let's look at the historic precedences in order to show how bad the situation of Slain actually is. In the Evil Eye bonus novels, Ainz Ooal, or rather Satoru Suzuki, was transported 200 years earlier, before the canon timeline, into the New World, and became friends with Evil Eye and even refounded his guild. But 200 years later, the Great Tomb of Nezaric itself, meaning without Ainz Ooal, but with everyone and everything else in it, came to the New World as well. And Ainz received a report that stated that a mysterious demonic force had appeared at the very western end of the continent and destroyed 3 surrounding nations, which implies that the kingdom, the empire, and the theocracy of Slain were all wiped out in a short period of time. Search parties for Ainz would likely have been sent out by Albedo and Demiurge, faced even minute resistance, which would then have prompted Albedo and Demiurge to mobilize and deal with the 3 surrounding nations. And with that said, given the obvious disparity in power between Slain and the Great Tomb of Nezaric, which today is even greater considering that Nezaric now has absorbed the Empire, the Kingdom, and has allied himself with the Dwarves, while currently controlling the Holy Kingdom and the new demi-human territories of Albellion, as well as the state-sponsored Adventurer Guild. And at this point, years worth of Death Knights, Soul Eaters, Death Warriors and Death Assassin build up, who would now form an army of the undead at least 10 or even 20,000 strong. We could for this scenario just assume that Slain will be indeed completely annihilated, without Zesshi, the strongest godkin. The next strongest person in the theocracy of Slain is perhaps the captain of the Black Scripture, and he is stronger than Solution Epsilon according to Sheltier. And I know a frenzied Sheltier is hardly the most reliable of sources, but it's the captain of the Black Scripture, and if he could be properly dealt with by one of Ainz Ooal's summonings, like a Doom Lord, and any Floor Guardian would just, okay with the exception of Victim, but any other Floor Guardian would just straight up wipe him out, without any major effort, then the theocracy is well and truly doomed. And as for the regular soldiers, the theocracy of Slain is said to have the strongest armies, but even so, they are hardly in the realm of heroes, aka over the level of 30, that all of the Death Knights, Death Warriors and so on and so forth are. And they will likely be supported by living auxiliary forces, drawn from Baharut, the Holy Kingdom, whatever survived in the Kingdom of Ainz, as well as from the Adventurer Guild, led by Demiurge and supported by his evil lords and demons, so therefore Slain's forces wouldn't survive a week of fighting. And Demiurge could just turn the territory into a gigantic happy farm, and Lupus Regina's idea of turning human nations into essentially pigsties should also be considered, and Ainz Ooal had also announced himself that he desires revenge, and not only just revenge, but excessive revenge, in a talk with Cocytus in the 8th novel. So is Slain doomed? And the answer is likely yes. However, the coming conflict is only happening because Sheltier, aka a Floor Guardian, was mind-controlled, and Ainz was forced to fight the child of his dear friend Pero Ronchino. So in order to make up for this, Slain would need to provide something that delights his Floor Guardians. And Zesshi could be this very thing, She, as far as we know, is still sleeping or under mind control and thus hasn't interacted with Ainz Ooal or the Great Tomb of Nezarec for that matter. Throughout the entirety of the volumes 15 and 16, Ainz had actively searched for someone around Mare's and Aura's age that they could become friends with. And there she has, at least nearly the power of Aura and Mare. And since the Great Tomb of Nezarec is full of strong sparring partners, maybe she could even reach level 100. The potential of researching Godkin and Godkin making could also be something that, again, Demiurge would be very delighted about. So Zesshi. But even she said that any husband, no matter how ugly, would be right for her if he's just stronger than her. So, Zesshi would maybe even volunteer to have the child of a floor guardian, without even being prompted or given an opportunity. And as a descendant of the gods of Slain, Zesshi also would be able to potentially take over the Slain theocracy in their name, through infiltration, rather than open hostility. And Ainz Ooal had said that he wanted to take excessive revenge, so just destroying Slain by infiltration, by turning the humanocentric god-fearing undead condemning theocracy into a state where Zesshi, a half-elf, would reign in the name of Ainz Ooal, or Soshana come again, revealing that the very gods themselves, the very gods people held so dear, were at least in part undead and of elvish blood. This would perhaps be a greater way to dealing with Slain, because after all, death is a mercy in Nezarec, so making all the holy men, all the true believers in Slain, watch as the nation becomes a province of the Sorcerer Kingdom. Hearing Nea Baraya preach that Ainz Ooal is indeed justice would perhaps be the strongest kind of revenge Ainz Ooal could come up with. And maybe announcing the marriage of Zesshi and the other godkins to demi-humans and heteromorphs would also be an even greater punishment in the eyes of the theocracy. Absorbing the legacy of a rival guild, as Ainz would view the 6 players that founded Slain surely, might be his type of revenge. And then there's this possibility that Ainz will halt his plans after mistaking or even identifying Zesshi, a half-elf descendant, who remembers of the bloodline of the 6 great gods and of the 8 great kings, for actually being a descendant of the sister of the supreme being Yamaiko. And this will be something that not only would be very surprising, but also something that will get its very own video. So, to end this video here, the theocracy is most likely like IKEA furniture without instruction manual, completely screwed. But there is hope, at least for Zesshi and maybe the other godkin. But for today, this is pretty much it. And with that said, I say thank you very much for watching, and special thanks to Order Daddy Order, Bad Guy Ye, Bad Burrito 316, Be There, Ben C, Brandon D, Chrissy, Crowley 0221, Sia, Crystal Prime, Dead Slime, Death is Mercy, Deathless Dragonlord, Demon Xenomorph 1987, Devin Downen, Ding Dong, Duckwagon, Dunkler Krieger, Dystopia, Dystopia II, Enigmatic Unicorn, Thiralshivan, Guy with That Head, Hector Marino, Hoss, Hustler, Jacob G, Jana B, Jason, J. Morris, Chromius, Kyle R, Lee K. Long, Legendarius, Lelu V. Britannia with a Mustache, Lexus Fox, Lord Nishikian Rai, Lord Touch Me, Love Razor, Mervek, Mr. Shoes, Mr. Tweaker, Michael R, Michael Y, Nope, Oh Hell No, Normal Toad, O'Kill, Overlord General Gasper, Paddy Pantum, Personage, Primus 11, Rhinomere, Q Nekarkos P, Shergox's Daddy, Shadow Lightning Wolf, Shrine Keeper, Super Tier Magic Batista Bomb, Supreme Cheese, Staris, Ted, Texas Deer, The Orc Warboss, Rock Ed Smasher, T.E. Wang, Vash Hawkeye, Vegito27, Venture Fanatic, Wilhelm, Xenokai, and Zonagon. Thanks guys. Anyway, have a nice day, and I hope to see you all again soon on my next video.